my little twin. When I was little, this is how I looked.
Why is my neck so long?
You said, why is your neck so long?
Yeah.
I don't know, you haven't grown into it.
What do you get if you cross a cat with a parrot? A carrot. That's not that funny.
The flashing lights. The red carpets. The Bravo cameras always rolling. For over a decade, Kandi Burruss built her name as one of the most successful housewives to ever join the Real Housewives of Atlanta. From music to business, from drama to triumph, she turned her life into an open book for millions of fans.
Focus on me and what I got going on. That's where I'm at right now, because I'm like, time shows improves, honey. Time shows improve.
But while we all got used to seeing Kandi clap back at Shade, win Grammys, and build her empire, there was always someone quietly growing up behind her, the daughter who never asked for the fame but had no choice but to live inside it. That little girl, Riley Burruss, is now 22 years old. And instead of hiding in her mother's shadow, Riley is speaking up. She's no longer the shy child sitting in confessionals. She's a grown woman who has something to say.
Well, okay, so everybody knows that this year, you know, they took like a few extra months between the season to figure out what they wanted to do with the cast.
How long do they normally take to tell? So this is the announcement of the cast, right?
Right.
Okay.
Normally, after we finish the reunion, you know, people get their letters to know, you know, that they're going to pick up and go to the next season or not, right? But they were like, oh, well, we got to figure some things out. And so during that time, people know I work all the time anyway.
Right.
But, you know, I started to have some other movie opportunities, a lot of other things that were happening that I can't even talk about. And I was just like excited about being able to spend more time with my family, but working and not being stressed and having to argue and go back and forth with people.
And what she's saying is shaking fans, because Riley isn't afraid to reveal the truth about what it was like growing up with a mom like Kandi. But here's the twist: her words aren't all sweet praise. They're raw. They're emotional. And some of them feel like confessions that Kandi never wanted the public to hear. This is the story of how Riley Burruss at 22 decided to spill her mom's secrets, and why the fallout might change how fans see one of the Real Housewives' most powerful women forever.
And you think about how much she not only went through on the show, but brought to the show. When she came on, she was with AJ. He, between filming her first season and shooting the reunion, was... Wow. She lost him. Mama Joyce was disapproving of AJ in her first season. This was season 2 of Atlanta. It was It was Kandi's first season. She also, in those early seasons, did the music and wrote Tardy for the Party. Insane. Which has become, you know, canon. I mean, it's just iconic to the moment.
Kandi Burruss was already a star before Bravo came knocking. Fans who know their 90s R&B history remember her as part of the group Escape. Her pen wrote some of the biggest hits of the era, and her talent made her millions. But Kandi wasn't just an artist, she was a hustler. She was the definition of someone who knew how to turn fame into fortune. When she joined the Real Housewives of Atlanta in 2008, her life became even more public. And right there with her, often in the background, was a young Riley. Fans remember seeing Riley as a quiet, sometimes awkward little girl standing beside her mom during heated scenes.
On the red carpet for the Grammys, and you announced that you were leaving Real Housewives of Atlanta.
I wasn't sure how I was gonna tell people at the time, right?
Right.
And but it was kind of like boiling inside of me. So my friend, she asked me on the red carpet, and I was like, I'm not even gonna lie to you, girl, I'm not going back. Oh. I feel like that was the best way, because it was my way, and it let me leave on my own terms. And it made it so I couldn't change my mind. When Andy called me, he was like, I don't know how I feel about this. And I was like, well, I guess I don't know how I feel about it either.
Yeah.
At first I was fine until he called.
he said.
And then he started saying all these things about what he was gonna miss and how much he loved, our relationship. And he had me kind of teary-eyed on the phone, to be honest. And it made me feel like, wow, I'm glad we have this relationship. And I didn't leave on a bad note. We still have that relationship. I still support him. I feel like we have a friendship. I'm glad it's that way.
While other kids had school plays and soccer games, Riley had Bravo cameras following her around. From the beginning, Kandi made it clear her daughter was her priority. But fans also noticed the challenges. Riley's father, Russell Block Spencer, was mostly absent, and Kandi raised Riley as a single mom while balancing her career and a new relationship with Todd Tucker. Kandi often said she wanted to give Riley everything she never had growing up, but the trade-off was clear. The bigger Kandi's empire grew, the less time Riley seemed to have her mom all to herself. As Riley got older, fans saw glimpses of her personality. On the show, she spoke about her father's absence, her struggles with confidence, and her challenges living in her mom's spotlight. Viewers sympathized with her, but Riley herself often stayed reserved, rarely giving more than a few words on camera. She looked like someone who never truly wanted the fame, but had to accept it because of who her mom was. Behind the scenes, though, Riley was fighting her own battles. Social media wasn't kind. At a young age, she was criticized for her looks and weight, something no child should ever have to deal with. Fans of the show and even strangers online picked apart her appearance, and it left scars. Kandi defended her daughter fiercely, but Riley's silence said it all. She was hurting. Fast forward to 2024, and Riley is no longer the quiet girl sitting in the background. She graduated from New York University, stepping into adulthood on her own terms. She's independent, outspoken, and ready to share her truth. And part of that truth involves revealing what life was really like growing up with a mom like Kandi Burruss. When Riley sat down for her first in-depth interviews and began posting openly on social media, fans were shocked. Instead of simply praising her mom, Riley admitted that life in Kandi's household wasn't always as glamorous as it looked. She spoke about feeling overlooked, about her mom's career often taking center stage, and about the pressure of being Kandi's daughter. One of Riley's first revelations was about how Kandi's work ethic sometimes made her feel invisible. She admitted that her mom's ambition, while inspiring, often meant there were times when Riley wanted more personal attention. She said, "My mom has always been about the grind, always moving, always working. I admire that about her, but there were moments I wished she could slow down and just be there, just be mom." That confession alone made headlines. Fans who admired Kandi's hustle suddenly had to think about what that hustle cost not just to her, but to her daughter. But Riley didn't stop there. She went further, speaking about how growing up in Kandi's world came with expectations that weighed heavy on her. Riley revealed that while she was grateful for the opportunities, the pressure to live up to her mother's legacy often made her feel like she couldn't make mistakes. She said, "People expect me to be perfect because of who my mom is. But I'm just me. I'm still figuring life out." And then came the part that stunned even longtime fans. Riley talked about the money. She admitted that while they lived in comfort, it didn't mean everything was easy. She hinted that sometimes, financial conversations in the family weren't as smooth as people assumed. She even touched on child support issues with her father, something that was already public but became more real when Riley herself spoke on it. Her honesty made it clear that the money, the fame, the house, they didn't erase the emotional struggles behind closed doors. But perhaps Riley's most emotional reveal was about her own battles with self-image. She admitted that growing up on reality TV and social media left her struggling with confidence. She said, "It's hard when the world has an opinion about you before you even know who you are." These confessions hit hard because they weren't just about celebrity life, they were about motherhood, family, and what it means to grow up in the shadow of someone else's success. The public response was immediate and divided. Some fans praised Riley for her honesty, calling her brave for speaking her truth. They said it was refreshing to hear a young woman open up about the realities of growing up in the spotlight. Others, though, criticized her, saying she was exposing family business that should have stayed private. And in the middle of it all was Kandi. True to her nature, Kandi didn't lash out. Instead, she showed grace, saying she was proud of Riley for speaking her truth, even if it wasn't always flattering. In interviews, Kandi admitted that motherhood was the hardest job she ever had, and she wasn't perfect. She said, "I've done my best, but I know I've made mistakes. I just want Riley to know I love her and I'm proud of her." But fans couldn't help but wonder, was this the start of a new chapter for the Burruss family, or the beginning of a divide? Riley's honesty has sparked conversations that go far beyond Bravo drama. It's made people ask tough questions. What does it mean to be the child of a powerful woman? What sacrifices do children make when their parents are chasing dreams? And how much of a parent's ambition is too much? For Riley, the answers are still unfolding. She's carving out her own path, exploring her interests in music business, fashion, and media. She's determined not to just be Kandi's daughter but to build her own name. Yet at the same time, her words have reminded fans that behind every celebrity story, there are children growing up, watching, waiting, and sometimes struggling. The emotional impact of Riley's confessions isn't just about Kandi, it's about every parent who's ever had to balance work and family, every child who's ever felt overshadowed, and every young adult trying to step out of a parent's shadow while still loving them deeply. And that's why this story hits so hard. Because it's not just a reality TV drama, it's real life. As Riley steps into adulthood, fans are watching closely. Will she continue to speak out? Will she use her platform to create change, to help others who grew up in similar situations? Or will the pressure of fame once again silence her? What nobody expected was how relatable her words would be. Millions of people who have never been on TV, who have never had a famous parent, still connected to her honesty about wanting love, time, and acceptance. In that way, Riley has done something powerful. She's reminded the world that even in fame, the struggles of family are universal. And now, the world waits to see how Kandi and Riley's relationship evolves. Will it grow stronger because of this honesty? Or will the secrets Riley has spilled create cracks that are harder to repair? One thing is clear: Riley Burruss is no longer the quiet child in the background. She's a woman with a voice. And whether fans like it or not, she's using it. Because sometimes, the biggest truth isn't in the shade thrown on Bravo, it's in the words of a daughter finally telling her story. But here's the thing: this story is far from over. Riley's decision to speak her truth at just 22 years old has already shifted how people view her, her mom, and the family dynamic we thought we knew. For years, fans assumed Riley would stay in the background, letting Kandi's fame carry the spotlight. But what nobody expected was for Riley to flip the script and finally step into her own voice. And that voice isn't polished with PR training. It isn't sugar-coated. It's raw. It's emotional. It's the voice of a young woman who grew up under the bright lights, but who now refuses to let those lights blind her anymore. When Riley talked about her mom's hustle sometimes leaving her feeling alone, it wasn't an attack, it was a cry for recognition. And when she admitted that the pressure of being Kandi's daughter weighed heavy on her, it wasn't about tearing her mom down, it was about finally telling the world, "I'm more than my last name." That honesty is why her words struck such a chord. Because behind every headline about Kandi's businesses, every Bravo feud, and every viral clip, there was always Riley. The little girl who smiled on carpets even when she felt insecure. The teenager who read cruel comments about her appearance. The daughter who sometimes wanted just one more hug before her mom had to catch another flight or another gig. And now, as a woman, Riley is saying, enough. She's stepping into her independence, but she's also forcing fans to look at the cost of fame in a new way. For Kandi, this moment has to be bittersweet. On one hand, she raised a daughter bold enough to speak her truth, strong enough to own her story, and confident enough to take on the critics. That's something any parent would be proud of. But on the other hand, the truth Riley is sharing shines a light on wounds Kandi probably hoped would never be exposed to the world. That's the price of honesty. It doesn't just heal, it also cuts. And for fans, it's a reminder that no family is picture perfect. Even when the house is big, the checks are large, and the cameras are rolling, there are still tears behind closed doors. There are still nights of loneliness. There are still moments when children just want their parents to slow down, sit down, and really see them. So as Riley steps into this next chapter, the question lingers: what comes next? Will this honesty push her and her mom closer, building a bond stronger than the one we've seen on TV? Or will it create tension that plays out in silence, behind the cameras, where no one can see? Whatever the outcome, one thing is certain: Riley Burruss has arrived. She is no longer just Kandi's daughter, she is Riley, a young woman carving her own path, demanding to be heard, and reminding the world that even in fame, the deepest stories are about love, struggle, and family. And maybe that's the real secret. Riley just spilled the truth that fame fades, businesses rise and fall, but the bond between mother and daughter is the story that never stops unfolding.